Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome to a new video. This video is going to be all of my spoilery thoughts and a discussion on the Zodiac Academy series. So I'm definitely talking spoilers. Even if you haven't finished the series yet, maybe don't watch this video yet because sometimes I'll mention things like out of order. Even if I'm talking about a specific book, I might spoil something for later books. So if you have not read the series, please don't watch this unless you want to be spoiled because I'm going to be talking spoilers. So this is your warning. It's going to start now. I'm going to start talking about them. So please leave if you haven't read it yet and come back when you finished it so we can do all of the spoilery chats. So I am ready to talk about these books. If you don't know, I binged the whole series like last month. I finished, a little bit of last month and this month. And I am wearing my Zodiac Academy crew neck that I have a matching one with my Zodiac Girls. If you don't know, me, Rachel from Raven Haired Reader, Cami from Burrows and Books, Sahar from Basically Bookish Reads, Kirsten from Kirsten's Corner, and Christina from Christina's Chapters are the Zodiac Girls. We have a little group chat and we started it because we started reading the Zodiac Academy series and we love it. Anyways, I am just gonna dive right in. I took notes on all of these after I finished the series. So for me, a lot of it blended together because I read the story so quickly and back to back. I picked up one book right after finishing the other. So sometimes the story bleeds together for me and I don't know what happens in which book. I know the things that happen, I just don't remember exactly which book they happen in. So I went through and tried to take notes and flipped through the pages and wrote down a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about. So let's talk about the first book, The Awakening. It starts off with Orion coming to the mortal world to come pick up Tori and Darcy and drops the bomb that they're these long lost princesses and they need to come back to Solaria, this Fae world, and attend this academy to learn about their magic. And they do this so that the heirs that are already planned to rule this world can beat them down and they can rescind their stake on the throne. So Tori and Darcy get thrown into this world, and immediately when they arrive at the academy, they are thrown into this ceremony called The Awakening, and they get their magic awakened, and they have all four elements. So first of all, I love elemental magic. I think that is so cool, and for these two to have all of the elements is just so amazing, especially because it's rare for people to have two even. That means you're pretty powerful if you have two elements. 3 is even rarer, and 4 is unheard of. And of course they show up knowing nothing about magic, nothing about this world, and they're boom, all 4 elements. Then of course we meet the heirs. So the 4 heirs of the Celestial Council. We meet Darius, Seth, Caleb, and Max, and they all hate Darcy and Tori. They hate the twins because they are just coming to this world and knowing nothing about it, and already they have more stake on the throne than these 4 who have been trained their whole lives to rule Solaria. So I get why that would be frustrating, but they take it a little far in this book, right? We know that it's straight up bullying. And honestly, there were some things that happened in this book that I was how am I ever going to forgive these guys for doing this? How are they ever going to redeem themselves? Seth plays that prank on Darcy when she gets initiated into the heir house and makes her think that she's on the edge of the building and that she has to jump and use her air magic to stop her. And it's all just a big joke. She jumps off of a step and everybody laughs at her and it's humiliating. And he's fine, you know what? Let's actually make her jump off the tower. And they take her to the tower and he's you could just cut off all your hair and then you don't have to jump. And she was no, yeet. And she just jumps off the building and everybody's holy crap. So she actually does stop herself with air magic and kind of turns the tables. Seth was trying to prove that she's not worthy of being here, and she just was bitch, I belong here. And the Fae world is so ruthless. They value power over anything else. And so that kind of explains a little bit of why the heirs are the way that they are. It says in here several times, if you want power, you have to take it. And so they've spent their whole lives trying to prove that they are the most powerful. And so they're trying to prove that Tori and Darcy are not as strong as they are and are not fit to rule on the throne. Then there's Tori's initiation into Ignis house, which is the fire element house, and Darius is like the captain of that house or whatever they call it, and he puts her through this initiation and tests her magic, and in the end she has to like walk through this fire, and he's like, you have to leave everything from the mortal realm behind you, and she's like, all right, bet. And she like walks through the fire, and all of her clothes get burned away. Like, her body is fine, her hair is fine, everything is fine, but her clothes are gone. So she's literally standing naked in front of the entire house. And of course it was meant to humiliate her, and she does not let it affect her at all. She like shows no emotion at all. She's just like pissed that Darius burned the $3,000 cash she had in her pocket, because her and her sister were very destitute in the mortal realm, and that meant a lot. And for him to try to humiliate her by burning everything, she was like, you know what? Take a good look, because you ain't ever going to see this again. And she walks away, and he's like, So I just love that the twins are not going down without a fight. They are like, you know what? You think that you're trying to humiliate me, and it's not going to work, because I'm going to prove you wrong at every turn. Then, of course, we meet Geraldine Gruss, who is the leader of the Ass Club, the Almighty Sovereign Society. She is a huge royalist, so she supports Tori and Darcy's claim on the throne, and she's like kind of annoying in this book, not gonna lie. I do grow to love Geraldine, I do. But when I was reading this book, I'm like, oh my god, why is she talking like this? She just has like this really weird, like a quirky personality. And yeah, it's just really funny because she's like got the girls' backs throughout the whole series. And in this book, they don't really know that yet. Like, she's not like fully their friend yet, but we do meet her in this one. Then we spend time at the academy learning about this world. It's like the basics of Solaria and learning about their orders. So they're like what kind of like fae creature that they are going to be. There's all different kinds of orders. There's vampires, werewolves, dragons, medusas, sirens, all kinds of stuff. Pegasus, I don't know. But we are learning all about that as the girls are all learning about it, and they don't know what their order is yet. We don't find that out for several books. We also learn all about their rules there and like how the world works, and we're getting just kind of like the basic rundown and world building in this book. They very much rely on the stars and like tarot readings and their like zodiac signs, obviously Zodiac Academy. So like they get a daily horoscope that kind of helps them guide their lives, which is really, really fascinating. I got like I've always been interested in astrology, but like it made me like legit want to research it and find out more about like my natal chart. I know my natal chart. I'm a Virgo sun. Virgo sun, Aquarius moon, Libra rising, if you were curious. Those are my big three. So yeah, I like did some research. I even downloaded like a app on my phone to like learn more about it just because I'm so curious, and it like plays such a big role in the series. Then there is this really nice scene where Tori and Darcy end up downtown. Like, I forget what the like city is called. I don't remember. But they go downtown and the heirs are already there, and they kind of like, they don't meet up with the heirs, but the heirs kind of ambush them and are like, one night we'll be nice to you, promise, like Scout's honor, no tricks. And they end up like dancing with the boys and like having a really good time, and it all blows up in their faces the next day because obviously the heirs can't be seen as like buddy with these like princesses. So it ends up getting ruined, of course, like everything in this series. Anytime there's a good moment, it immediately ends up getting ruined. And then Tori and Darcy Darcy overhears Orion talking to this woman, and it really seems like he's like plotting to kill her and Tori, and so she's like, they're legit gonna kill us. Like, they have this whole plan to kill us off because they don't want us to rule. We learn a little bit about nymphs, which are this like they're kind of like an evil creature that comes and they like suck the magic out of fae, and there is like a nymph attack. Geraldine ends up getting attacked by a nymph in this, and Orion is the first of the scene, and so Darcy is like super suspicious of him even though he's like totally hot. And then we get to the ending. So the very end of this is super intense, where the heirs are like trying their hardest to beat Tori and Darcy down. And Max, who is a siren who can like influence emotion, finds out what their deepest fear is, and then they twist that and use it against them. So Darcy's deepest fear is like not being loved or trusting somebody and then having them like betray her or whatever. And so like her hair plays a big role in that because she has like dyed her hair tips blue to like kind of symbolize this like feeling that she's not going to trust anyone again. And so her hair has like deep meaning to her, and Seth ends up like trying to make it seem like he likes her or whatever, and then cuts off all her hair, which is like so mean. I know in the next book she gets to grow it all back, but like if somebody cut off my hair, I would be devastated. Like I have long hair, and I just can't imagine somebody cutting it off. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just like a super like vain thing to think, but like how could you do that to somebody? Ugh, Seth. And then Tori's like twisted thing that they do to her is even worse because she has this like deep-rooted fear of deep water. Because she was in a car accident the car went underwater of this river, and she was like trapped in the car underwater and like nearly drowned. And some like random bystander came and saved her. Her ex-boyfriend who was in the car, who was the one driving, didn't even attempt to save her. So she's like super afraid of water, like rightfully so. And so they make her climb to the top of this high dive. So she's going to have to dive into this deep pool. And this whole time, too, they are like, they can coerce the twins so they can make them do whatever they want, basically. And they try to coerce Tori to like climbing off of the diving board, but she fights it. She fights it off, and they're like, oh, like shit, she's actually powerful. And she ends up just like, you know what? They're gonna do it to me, like they're gonna make me do it anyways, I might as well go out on my own terms. And so she jumps off the diving board into this deep pool, and they end up trapping her underneath it with ice. So not only did she have to go into the water, which she didn't want to do in the first place, but they like trapped her under there, and she literally nearly drowns. Like she literally nearly drowns. And that's how it ends. Like Orion comes and is like, what the hell is going on here? Like you guys are like awful. You're all getting detention because of course they're these freaking Celestial Council heirs. So they can't be like actually punished because, you know, privilege. And that's basically how it ends. One of the professors ends up like completely getting burnt alive. Basically, they find like his like charred body, and there's like this message from Falling Star that the girls have been getting, and they think that it's Astrum. At least I think that they find out that it might be him in this book. I don't know. But yeah, that's basically how it ends. And I'm like, literally finished this, like, that's not just bullying. Like, they're horrible. Like, bullying, like, pushing them around or saying like really mean things or like burning off their clothes and trying to humiliate them, like, okay, that's bad enough as it is. But cutting off all of her hair and then trying to drown the other one, like that is crossing a line. So literally I was reading this like loving every second of it, and I'm like, how am I ever going to forgive these guys? How am I ever going to forgive these guys? Which of course I end up doing later in the series. So moving on to the next book, I'm going to talk about The Awakening as told by the boys, just because I want to stay like close to the story and like the things that are happening. I do think that this book should be read later in the series. Like I would read it after like the 6th or 7th book, honestly, because like some of the things in here, it's not spoilers necessarily, but it's like things might be revealed if you're not ready to reveal them yet. So I would still recommend reading this later in the series, but I'm going to talk about it now since it is literally the first book, but from the boys' perspectives. So we really get a deeper understanding of the position that they're in, especially Darius. Darius has a horrible, horrible father. He's so abusive and he is just vile. Like he threatens Darius's younger brother and tortures his younger brother. And he's like, if you don't make these girls quit Zodiac Academy, like your brother's going to pay the price. And he like burns Xavier until his like flesh is coming off his bones. And Darius has to, like, they have the healing ability, so it's not, like, permanent, but still, like, the pain of that, and Darius having to sit there and watch, and knowing that if he doesn't get these girls to quit, something horrible is going to happen to his little brother, like, the only thing he cares about in the world. So he's, like, in actually a tough position. Like, yes, he really, really badly bullies Tori, especially in this one, but he's just like in such a tough spot. Like, so it's not excusing it necessarily, but it does explain it a lot more. Like it makes you feel for him much more. Again, we also know, like, well, when I read this after the 7th book, so I already knew like what was going down in the series, and like going back in time to reading this and like knowing what was going to happen after this was kind of interesting, because we find out in book 4 that Tori and Darius are Elysian mates, and it's kind of funny to like go back to when he first lays eyes on her, because his literally, as soon as he sees her, his first word is mine. Like, because he's a dragon, you know, he's all about his treasure, and he's like, mine, she's mine. Like, and he keeps calling her my girl throughout this one, even though like he's literally like so horrible to her. He's calling her my girl, and like can't stay away from her. Even if he's gonna be mean to her, he cannot stay away from her. And I'm just like, oh my God. There's also a part where he's like, I think it's like right before he makes Tori go up on the like diving board to go into the pool, where he's like, I felt something from the stars, like they were disappointed in me or something like that. And it's like, later on you learn that he and Tori are mates, and like she says no, she denies him specifically because of that, like because he's been so horrible to her and because he nearly drowned her. And the stars like knew that. They knew that. And so like they were disappointed in that decision, but they don't make fate happen necessarily. Like the decisions you make will affect your fate, and that was one of them, because like that was one of the moments where it like messed up Tori and Darius's like chance to be happy, basically. You also get Orion's perspective on Darcy. He has like a very similar thing. He's obviously a teacher at this academy, so he's forbidden to like her, but he's like so drawn to her, and he's like blaming it on her blood because she's so powerful and he's a vampire, and so like her blood like tastes better than anything he's ever had before. And so he's like trying to play it off as like, I'm only attracted to her because I'm attracted to her blood. And obviously, again, later on in the series, we find out that Orion and Darcy are mates, and like this whole time the stars have been pushing them together, and he's like trying to deny it so much in this book. But yeah, some of the other like perspectives that we get, you know, you see them kind of at war with themselves, like not wanting to be as horrible to these girls as they are, but knowing that if they don't get rid of them, that they will lose their like claim on the throne or claim to rule Solaria. So they're like, parents are also heavily influencing them and saying like, you need to be tough, you need to be strong. And they're like, even Seth's mom, like he's like a werewolf, so he has to have like this pack mentality and whatever. And his mom like tells him he can't come on this moon march thing, which is like a really important thing. And so he's like, I have to get rid of these girls. I have to be ruthless. I have to do whatever I can to get rid of them. Otherwise, I'm going to be like an outcast of my family, which he can't actually handle because he's a werewolf. So it's like all this stuff coming into play where you're kind of seeing the backstory of it. And again, it's not excusing their behavior because they are like total dicks, but it does explain it a little bit more. Like there are reasons for it. But yeah, I don't know if I said, I'll say my ratings. I gave this 5 stars. I gave this one 4 stars. I definitely think it's worth reading if you enjoy the series, but not necessarily necessary. Oh my God, this is going to be a really long video. So moving on to the second book, Ruthless Fae. So we start the book off like right where the last book left off. Like the girls literally just got back to their rooms after everything that went down, and they're like, that's it, we're out of here, this is not worth it. The only reason they wanted to be there in the first place was to get their parents like wealth, basically, and in order to do that, in order to get their inheritance, they had to graduate from Zodiac Academy. And they're like, you know what, this isn't worth it. They didn't even want the throne in the first place, but they're like, screw this, we'll just go back to the mortal world and figure it out, like it's not worth it. And so Darcy needs to go steal Stardust to transport from Orion's office. And Tori is going to steal gold from Darius so they have something back in the mortal realm to kind of help them out. Because again, like I said, they were destitute. And Tori ends up being like super pissed and burns Darius's entire room down. and also steal some treasure. And Darcy ends up getting caught by Orion, and he like kind of convinces them to stay, obviously because of his connection to Darcy. He's like, I don't want you to leave, like I want you to actually stay and fight for this like a Fae would. And Tori and Darcy are kind of like, you know what, you're right, like we're gonna stay and fight, we're made of tougher stuff than this, like those boys are not gonna get us down, and they decide to stay. And then Orion kind of helps Darcy grow her hair back. There's like a spell for it. And they have this really cute moment where he's like, are you going to dye your hair back to blue? Or are you going to dye it a different color? Because he's like, I don't know what, which book he says it in, but he's like, blue means you. And I think it's in this one. I don't even know. Again, it all bleeds together, especially after like the first book. But she ends up like running to him in the rain, like running to his like place on campus in the rain with her hair dyed all blue, and they have this really cute moment, and then they become like a couple. They're so cute. And of course it's super forbidden, so she hides it from everybody. She has to, because like horrible things will happen to Orion if he gets caught. I forgot to mention in the first book, Caleb claims Tori as his source, and they kind of have this like lingering like sexual tension kind of, where he's like the nicest of the heirs. I feel like he's actually like doesn't want to torture them as much as the other ones do. He definitely does like play into the bullying, but not quite as much, and he's definitely catching feelings for Tori, and things get pretty steamy in this one. I think it's in this one when they're at like Acrux Manor that him and Tori do the deed, and he's like falling for her hard. Oh, the girls also get a little bit of their revenge in this one, but their revenge is much more harmless than what the boys were doing. They like play pranks on the boys. Like Seth gets fleas because he's a werewolf. That's kind of funny. It's harmless. Obviously Darius's room got completely torched. They make like this joke about Caleb being like having like a Pegasus fetish, and so they play that up to kind of humiliate him a little bit. And then Max, I think, he has like a sensitivity to griffin poop, and so they like rub it in his uniform, so he gets like this bad like rash from it. So it's pretty harmless compared to what the boys like did to them, but I love that they got their revenge. Oh, there is this part in the book with Tori and Darius, who I freaking love, on page 430. Oh my god. So Darius says, "Do you hate me then?" He asked quietly, and for some strange reason, it sounded like the idea of that didn't sit well with him. I forced myself to reply in a steady tone, holding his eye as I spoke. "No," I said, and a glimmer of relief spilled through his eyes, almost halting me there, but I wasn't quite so blinded by him as to give him a free pass for all his bullshit. "To hate you, I'd have to care about you, and I don't give one shit about you," I said coldly. I shook his hand off me for the second time and stalked away towards Darcy and Orion. He didn't follow me, and I was glad, because I had the horrible feeling that that might have just been a lie. Oh my god, that part where like he's like, "Do you hate me then?" Which she should. She has literally every right to, but obviously he has this attraction towards her, and like he actually does like her. He doesn't actually hate her. And she's like, "I'd have to care about you in order to hate you." And he's like, that part's so sad. Just because like I know where it's going, and of course like I've been rooting for them from the first book. Like I wanted Tori and Darius to be together because I love Hate to Love, and that moment when he burns all her clothes off and she's pissed and he's like, oh my god. I've been rooting for them ever since. Oh, they also start the rumors about Tori being a sex addict and Darcy being crazy and seeing ravens and like talking to ravens. So they start that rumor in this one, I believe. And then the very ending scene is at the pitball game, which I loved seeing the pitball stuff and like learning this new sport and like how the magic is involved. It was great. And then, of course, there is the nymph attack, which everybody is, like, fighting against these nymphs. Things are going down, and all of a sudden, Tori and Darcy have this, like, red and blue flame coming from them, and they help, like, they're so powerful that they help, like, defeat the nymphs and, like, keep everyone safe, basically. Although a few did die from that, but we're starting to see more of Tori and Darcy being, like, super powerful and seeing their magic, but we still don't know what their order is in this book. And then we move into The Reckoning, Book 3. This is one of my favorites of the series. Book 3 and Book 5 are my favorites. I can't decide. Whenever I reread this series, I will decide which one is my favorite of the series. So this one starts off with Hell Week, and basically it's like giving the freshmen hell, like just making their lives absolute torture. And of course, the heirs are like, we gotta amp it up. Like, we gotta, we gotta get these girls out of here because the reckoning is coming up. And if they pass the reckoning, then they're in Zodiac Academy and they're so powerful. Like, the more that they learn about their magic, the more of a threat they are to the heirs. And it's just funny because, like, everything that they throw at the girls, they just, like, overcome with this, like, awesome way. Also, sorry if the lighting, like, keeps going in and out. Hopefully it's not that bad, but I'm just gonna roll with it. Oh, there's that scene where Tori gets really drunk with Sophia and Diego, and Darius, like, finds them, and he's like, I'm just gonna take her back to her room because she's gonna be, like, a nuisance, like, with her magic, like, on the loose. And so he takes her back to his room, and she ends up, like, falling asleep there, and they have, like, this cute moment where she wakes up and she's like, for the first time in a long time, I woke up without nightmares and I feel super safe, and she's, like, wrapped in his arms. And then again, that cute moment is ruined because she's immortal and she's hungover. Well, she's from the mortal realm, and when she's hungover, she's looking for painkillers, and so she, like, opens up his drawer or something, and he gets all, like, pissed about that. He's like, what is a painkiller? Like, just heal yourself. And she's like, anyways, he kicks her out, and it's this whole thing where it's like, God, you can't just have one freaking cute moment without it being ruined immediately. Oh yeah, in this one, somehow Seth inadvertently made Darcy his omega of his pack, and so he's, like, getting shunned from his pack, and he's got to, like, initiate her into the pack so that he can kick her out or something like that. So there's that whole thing between them. Ugh, Seth is just so annoying. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm looking at my notes, like, I'm just remembering everything. So Tori and Darius go back to his house to race bikes because she's, like, into motorbikes. She's super badass like that. And she ends up finding out that Darius's little brother Xavier is a Pegasus, which is, like, a shame to the family. He's being kept secret. His dad is, like, being a super big dick about it, and they, like, are hiding it from everybody. And Tori is so freaking sweet, and she's like, why would I be upset about this? Why would I tell his secret? Like, he's beautiful and it means so much to Xavier. He's like, thank you, and there's, like, tears in his eyes. It's just such a cute moment because Darius is like, only you would look at a Pegasus and not see, like, shame. And she's like, you guys have such backwards thinking because he's literally beautiful. It's just a really cute moment, especially between Tori and Xavier, because he's never felt that, like, from anyone. And it's just really cute to see. And then, of course, Tori and Darius race the bikes, and she's trying to win one from him, and it's, like, super dangerous to ride these bikes or whatever, and they end up getting flung off of them and have to save themselves with their magic. And Tori definitely won, and Darius is like, I don't know, we'll call it a tie. And it was just, like, a super sweet moment between them because obviously Tori was having, like, the time of her life, and Darius, like, wasn't trying to kill her or anything. Also, sporadically throughout this, there are, like, we see little bits of the Reckoning trials and, like, watching the girls use their magic to get around these, like, trials and whatever. I do kind of wish we saw more of that in this, like, more of the, like, almost Hunger Games-esque style where you, like, see them really, like, getting in the thick of it. But it's really a small part of this one. It's just, like, they just keep passing these trials with, like, flying colors, which we knew they would because they're the most powerful Fae in Solaria. Oh yeah, so Tori cuts herself with the Draining Dagger. So the twins learn about Darius and Orion using dark magic. They learn about Darius and Orion's guardian bond thing, which is mentioned in As Told by the Boys. So that's why I'm like, it's not revealed yet. So you're like, what the hell is a guardian bond? So that's why I'm like, you should read that one last. We also get a lot of moments of Darius being very jealous of Tori and Caleb because they have this, like, friends with benefits situation almost. And Caleb is obviously more interested in Tori than Tori is interested in Caleb. And this is also the one with the, like, carnival or whatever it is where Orion is, like, needs to apologize to Darcy for something. What did she do? Oh, Diego kisses Darcy and Orion sees it, and Darcy's like, well, I don't feel about you that way, like, you're just a friend to me. And he sees it and he's like, what the heck? And then he goes and kisses, like, his ex-girlfriend, and Darcy of course sees that, and God, that was such a stupid thing to do for Orion. Like, be more mature than that. Anyways, he ends up apologizing to her via electrocution. He like goes on this like carnival like act or whatever about this like man who's like the strongest man who doesn't feel an electrocution, and Orion like has to try to outlast him. That's his like way of apologizing, is being like, look at me, I can take electrocution. And that part is just so dumb but like so cute, and I don't know, that part is just, it's something. And then we get to the lunar eclipse. So the lunar eclipse is like, makes everybody really horny apparently, and Tori sends Darius this picture of her in her underwear, and she's like blanking on the moon because like she's like, I don't know what to wear, and he's like, wear whatever you have on. And so she sends this picture of like her standing in her underwear, and he's like, what? There's also this quote where Darius says, I've been watching you, he said slowly. My heart beat a little faster at that confession, and I tilted my head at him, my hair spilling over my shoulder and drawing goosebumps along my skin in the process. Darius observed the movement like he was starving for it, like anything and everything I did now was fascinating to him. Why? I asked slowly, needing his answer like I needed to draw breath. Because that's what I do, he said slowly. I watch you and hunger for you and ache for you. It torments me like I torment you. Oh my God. And then they kiss. They have this moment where we think like they're finally going to get together. Oh, then right after that, there's this quote. There are countless people who would say I'm not allowed to want you, Darius breathed. But you make me want to burn the whole world down so that I can claim you for my own. Then we should burn it down, I agreed. Oh. And then what happens? Because it's a good moment. Oh yeah, it gets ruined. Lionel shows up and he's like, nice job, Darius, tricking her into thinking that you wanted her so we could take her and use her for this ritual to like get shadow magic. So Lionel steals Tori and Darcy and uses them in this ritual, and then they all get like shadow magic now, this fifth element that they have. And Tori and Darcy's orders finally emerge, and they're phoenixes, and I totally saw that coming. Not from the beginning, but there was like a comment that Tori made in the beginning of the Reckoning where she was like, we were gonna rise from the ashes, and I was like, like a phoenix. Anyways, how freaking badass that they're phoenixes, because there hasn't been one in 1,000 years, and now they're both phoenixes, and they have that red and blue fire from the second book was their phoenix flames, and their phoenix flames like burns through all of the dark coercion that Lionel was trying to put on them. So none of the stuff that he said even affected them, but he didn't know that they were phoenixes. He thinks that they're like a fire harpy, and so he's like doesn't really realize how truly powerful they are, and they decide that they're going to keep it a secret. But yeah, it ends basically with that huge like intense moment where they get all this, like all of them that are involved get this shadow magic, and the twins order emerges. And then of course Tori is absolutely freaking pissed at Darius for not doing anything to help them. Like he just kind of stood by. And the literal last line of this was, because he says, I'm sorry, and she says, he was sorry. Not yet, he wasn't. So she's like freaking pissed at him. It's just so sad because like they were just having this cute moment, and so yeah, that was the end of that book. 5 stars. Special 5 because it's one of my favorites. Okay, so then I feel like it's time to read Origins of an Academy Bully, which is the prequel novella. So it's like 85 pages, and it explains a bit more of the Shadow Realm. And I feel like after the 3rd book, this is like the perfect time to read it because you learn about what happened to Clara, Orion's sister, and like how she got sacrificed to the Shadow Realm. And she becomes a big role in the next book. So this is like the perfect time to read it. And then we also get the backstory on the guardian bond that was forced on Orion to protect Darius. Of course, Lionel was the one who did that because he is an asshole. So yeah, I think this one is important to read because it does give you some of that knowledge that I feel like is useful. And it's really short, so you might as well just read it. But yeah, I feel like this one is meant to be read after the 3rd book, in my opinion. I did end up giving this one 4 stars because it's like, it's hard to enjoy a 85-page novella. You know what I mean? Then we have the 4th book. Shadow Princess. So this one, this was the first book that made me cry. We'll talk about that because it happens more towards the end. But yeah, we get Tori's anger towards Darius. Obviously, she is like back to hating him and being mad at him because he didn't really do very much to help her or her sister when Lionel was like forcing this ritual on them in the last book. And now the twins have to deal with all this like shadow, like the shadows inside them. I think Orion originally thought that their Phoenix Fire like burned the shadow magic out of them so they don't have to deal with it, but they keep hearing this voice like asking them to help her escape and all this stuff, and it's just a lot to deal with because the shadows are like intoxicating. They're like a drug basically, and if they pull you in too deep, you'll never come back. And so they're very dangerous, which is why like the dark magic that Orion and Darius were practicing is also very dangerous. That's why they kept it on the DL, but also because they're trying to take out Lionel because he's a piece of shit. Then we meet a new character in this book, Gabriel. He is also one of the main characters in the Dark Fae series. So this is a prequel series set 5 years before the events of the first Zodiac Academy book, and I believe he is one of the love interests in this book. So I haven't read that yet, but I definitely plan to read that. That's like my next big series read. Sometime this summer I'll read it, probably in July. But anyways, we meet Gabriel. He is like Orion's best friend basically besides Darius, and he's also a very powerful seer, and he's a harpy, and we later find out he is actually the twins' brother. But he comes because he's like helping give the twins flying lessons originally, and then of course he's also a seer, so he's like giving them like these prophecies and stuff, like these little things. The twins are also forced to join clubs in this book, and Orion like chose for them. So Darcy is on the pitball team now, or she's like meant to try out for the pitball team. She tries out, kicks ass, she becomes the pit keeper. And then Tori is meant to be a cheerleader, which is kind of funny because obviously Tori is like very sarcastic and like not cheerful. And so she comes to like her cheer tryout or whatever and has like "bite me" written on her butt. And it's just, she's just hilarious. But I think it's in this book where the, like the two cheerleading squads have to like battle it out. Like Marguerite and her cronies are like, what do they call themselves? Team Winkle or something like that. Team Twinkle, because then Tori makes the joke of like, why are you saying Winkle? And then some of the other people that came over to like Tori's side basically, and we're like, we want to do like cool tricks and stuff, and like you're the most powerful one, so you can do all these like cool flips because you can use your air magic. They're the vixens. And I just love that whole thing because like Tori is just not at all what you would think a cheerleader is like, but she still kicks ass at it. I love it. We get some little scenes of Xavier and Sophia, obviously because Xavier is a Pegasus and so is Sophia, and so like Darius kind of tried to like hook them up so he had somebody to talk to because he's been held captive by their father. We get the scene of Orion's birthday, and of course Gabriel is behind all of that. He gets them to take Orion like out on the town, and the girls go out to meet them, not really knowing that it's Orion and Darius, but they go out to meet Gabriel and his friends, he says, and then they take these like sour shots that like hurt your body basically, and it's like truth or dare, but if you don't do the dare, then you have to take the shot. And the first dare was like Tori has to be nice to Darius for the whole night, and she's like, pass, give me the shot. It's so funny. I love that. She was just like, immediately no. Immediately no. We also get some scenes with Max and Geraldine in this one. So they had like a moment in the third book because of the lunar eclipse. And obviously Geraldine is like a huge royalist. And she's like, I can't believe that my Lady Petunia would lead me to you. And Max is like, actually likes her and is like, just like can't understand how she wouldn't be like all over him, and she's like, no, that was a mistake, it won't be happening again, get away from me. And he's like, that was amazing, we need to do it again. It's just really funny. I love them. Oh, Caleb takes Tori on this terrible date, like literally everything that she hates. She doesn't eat meat, and he takes her to the sushi place, and she's like, that looks disgusting. And then he takes her to like this karaoke thing, and she's like, I'm not doing that? And it's just like this horrible, horrible date. And Caleb's like, I thought you would really like it. And he just doesn't know her at all. And then he goes back to the heirs like afterwards and is like, yeah, that was definitely not a good idea. And Darius is like, why would you have her do? And Caleb tells him, and Darius is like, that was dumb. You should have just like taken her to a race, like a bike race, and like got her a burrito from a food truck. And he's like, I think she wants a little bit more than that. And Darius is like, I think you don't know her at all. And it's just funny because like that's exactly what Tori was thinking in her head when she was on the date with Caleb, was that she would rather be like have a burrito from a food truck. And then Darius is like, I think I would get her a burrito from a food truck. This is also the book where the heirs finally work out like how bad Lionel actually is, and that Darius has been dark coerced, and he's been told not to tell them anything, and so they don't actually know the depth of Lionel's evil, basically. And they kind of find out by using Max's gifts to interpret emotion, and Darius, he can tell when Darius is lying, and so they kind of have to read between the lines, but they find out like what Darius is going through. So then there is the Halloween party where the heirs prank the girls again, and they drug Tori basically into being super promiscuous to like play into that like sex addict rumor. And then they give Darcy some sort of drug so that she like hallucinates stuff, and they like give her these hints of like, oh, don't let the ravens see you or something. And so she has these hallucinations. And of course it's all videotaped and all put out on the media. And then Darius is like getting second thoughts, and they're like, too late. We already submitted it. Like, it's already out there. It's too late. And of course then Tori and Darcy are pissed, and they fight back by hiring their own like media coordinator or whatever to twist the story for them and like make it actually so that the girls then have sympathy from people rather than like scorn. And it was just so funny because all of the heirs stuff just freaking backfires on them. They're so dumb. Oh my god. And then Tori, to get back at them, Tori steals Darius's motorbike and drives it off a cliff, and then like uses her wings to fly so she doesn't get hurt, and destroys his bike, lights it on fire and everything. So dramatic. And then of course Darius is pissed, and he like hunts her down and like finally gets a hold of her and like rips her hair back and then kisses her. And then they have their first steamy scene. Ugh. And then of course, because they finally have this moment together, it gets ruined by Tori because Darius is about to say something, and she's like, she doesn't want it to be like an insult or something, so she's like, I'm gonna take charge here. I'm gonna be on the offensive. And she says, this doesn't change anything, I said aggressively, knocking my shoulder against his arm as I passed. Thank fuck for that, he replied darkly. And it's like, he didn't actually like think that either. Like, he said it to like save face, but Tori. So it's like those kinds of things, again, all leading up to their like Elysian mate, like divine moment, and all those little things adding up to like hurting each other, to making them not be able to be together. It's just so heartbreaking. They go to the Palace of Souls, I think it's called, which is like their parents' like palace, and they have Christmas there. They have this cute moment with the heirs where they do like a snowball fight, and Tori and Darcy get some insight, like they get a vision about their mom in the past and like how she really loved them and how their dad really loved them, and everything that they did was to try to protect them and save them. And then there's the quote that Tori says, you want me to hate you? And Darius says, I want you to feel for me, and I'll take hate if that's all you're offering. Then Tori and Darius have their divine moment. So they get called by the stars when they're supposed to be helping Orion and Darcy, and they get called by the stars to have their divine moment, and Tori says no, and they become star-crossed. I was bawling. It was so hard to read that because like, I like it when characters are like put through the ringer to get their happy ending. Like, it makes it so much more special when they have to work for it. They have to fight for it. And honestly, I feel like they've had enough. They've fought enough for it. And this moment, I was like, finally, they have a reason to be together. Like, they have to be together. And Tori says no. And now the stars are going to actively work against them being together. Ugh. And then it ends basically with Darcy and Orion in this cave trying to save his sister from the Shadow Realm, and she comes back and she's like taken over and she stabs him and he dies. Like, that's how it ends. So it's like every single time a book ends in this, you just can't end there. Like, you can't not pick up the next book. So I gave this one another 5 out of 5. I really liked this one, and this was the first one that made me cry. Then we have the 5th book, one of my other favorites. I can't decide, again, if the 3rd book or the 5th book is my favorite, but Cursed Fates, one of my faves. So we start off with Seth and Darius coming to help save Orion and like revive him, basically. So he does get saved. He is okay, but it was just like a scary moment. Then we are dealing with the aftermath of Tori being star-crossed from Darius now. So she is obviously like crushed by this. She has all these emotions. She's still going to be drawn to him, but now they can never be together and they'll never be happy with anyone else. Oh, and of course she just like is in this like depression now, and Darius is freaking devastated. Like, Tori is still like, no, that was the right decision even if it is crushing her, but Darius was like begging her to accept the bond because he's like, it all makes sense now, like why I'm so drawn to you. And he gets denied, and oh, he's just so devastated by it. This is also the book when Tori makes Darius the friendship bracelet out of like vines for him. Oh, that part is so cute where he's like, I know that I'm friends with Darius, but if you ever need anything, I'll be here for you. And oh, it's just so cute. And he's definitely trying, Orion is definitely trying to like change their fate to help them be happy, and you know, so they don't have to be star-crossed their whole lives. And the stars are like actively working to keep them apart in this book. Like, anytime they get too close to each other, like lightning will strike down between them or something like that. Like, they can never be close. Darius finally gives Tori the bike that she won from the 2nd book, the 3rd book. And it's like this like super tricked out, like awesome, like one of a kind bike. And that part is just so sweet because he just knows her so well. Oh, Lionel hires an order conversion therapist to try to brainwash Xavier and like basically torture out of him that he's not a Pegasus. But he is. And then Tori is able to use her Phoenix Fire to break through Darius's mom's dark coercion, which has been like super harmful to her. And like he makes her do all these things. So Tori can use her Phoenix Fire to burn through that. And then Tori exposes Xavier as a Pegasus. Like, she posts it on Facebook. And Darius is super pissed about that at first. And then Tori's like, this is the best thing that could have happened to him, because now everybody knows. He doesn't have to hide it. Your father can't do anything about it because everyone knows. And if he were to do something about it like that, everyone would know what a piece of shit he is. So I did it to help Xavier. And Darius is like, oh my God, thank you. Also, all the pining in this between Darius and Tori, like Darius finally being nice to Tori, and he's like, I'll never hurt you again because like, look what it cost me. And he like follows her on her runs and stuff, and she like doesn't tell him to stop because she likes it. And him like sticking up for her, like to Marguerite, because Marguerite is like being an asshole about it, and she's like, he would never say yes to you, like no wonder why he's star-crossed, because you're his mate. And he's like, she said no to me, okay? And you'll never talk bad about her again. Then there's that scene, the scene in this book where Caleb organizes a moment with Tori and Darius to be together, and they're all 3 of them together hiding from the stars. Oh, that was steamy. Oh, and then Mildred. I haven't talked about Mildred yet. So Darius's like cousin that he's engaged to, the really nasty one, comes to Zodiac Academy and is like, Snickums. And Tori just like absolutely kicks her ass and like actually knocks her out. And then it's like, that's like how Fae fight, is like they take power from people and like they have to prove that they're stronger. And Tori's like just beats her down. I love that part. This is also the one where Darcy and Orion get their relationship exposed because of stupid Kylie, and Orion gets arrested and they have this whole trial, and Darcy makes him promise like that he's gonna fight for them, and he breaks that promise because he doesn't want to like ruin Darcy and her reputation, and so he like confesses to, you know, like dark coercing her into it and whatever. And then he gets sentenced to Darkmoor Penitentiary, which is tragic. We also have the scene where Caleb hunts Tori, like he's been hunting her, you know, they have this like game or whatever, and he finally takes it too far and knocks her off a roof and like breaks her spine and stuff. And Darius comes and heals her. Oh, that moment. And of course, Darius is like freaking pissed at Caleb and wants to like kick the crap out of him. Caleb and Seth also have a moment in this one. Oh, Tori and Darcy get the other vision from their past. Or of the past, where they learn that Gabriel is their half-brother, and they find out that Lionel was the one behind their parents' murders. I'm not sure if this is the vision where they find out that Lionel was dark coercing the Savage King the whole time, but he does do that at one point. So all of the horrible things that everybody expected from the twins, because they're the Savage King's daughters, was all because of Lionel. Like he was behind every horrible thing that King Vega ever did. Darcy finds out that Kylie was the one who like ratted out her and Orion, and so Darcy and Seth shun her, which is great. And then the ending where Tori is tricked into thinking that Darcy was kidnapped by Lionel, so they go over to Acrux Manor and there's this huge battle. There's nymphs, there's like the Shadow Princess is there, and Diego ends up dying, and Darcy ends up overcoming the shadows, like she doesn't have them anymore. And then the very, very end where Darius is like about to kill Lionel and he has to use the Shadow Princess to stop Darius. And then he's like, what is it going to take to, like, what would you do for Tori or whatever? Like, what would make you kill her? And he's like, literally nothing. And so Lionel is like, that's what I was counting on, and then makes Tori, like forces Tori to be his guardian. So they have that like twisted bond, and now she will like put herself in front of Lionel. Like she can't let Darius kill Lionel, which is just so messed up. And it's just gross. That ending where it's like she's jealous that Clara is holding his hand. That's, oh, so sick. So that's how that one ends. 5 stars, special 5 stars. Then we have the novella 5.5, The Big Ass Party. So this one is just a bunch of like cute moments between the different couples. Geraldine and Max have some cute moments. Tori and Darius have some cute moments. Lance and Darcy have some cute moments. Just like the heirs and the girls have some cute moments. It's just a lot of cute moments in 100 pages. But it doesn't really like add anything necessarily. There's no like important information going on in here. So there's that. Then we move on to the 6th book, Fated Throne. We learn more about Tori's like sick connection through this guardian bond with Lionel. She's being like twisted into being someone who she's not. After the summer, she does come back to Zodiac Academy, but she's like totally different, and she doesn't like care about Darcy anymore. And anytime Darius like speaks to her or comes near her, she like flinches, which we find out later is because Lionel has been like torturing her and conditioning her to associate like bad feelings with Darius. Lionel takes over as king. He uses the shadows to like take over from the other like celestial counselors, and he's like, bitch, I'm king now. Xavier has his awakening. He has 3 elements, which is such a fun slap in the face to Lionel because he's not a dragon, but he has more elements than Lionel does, which is hilarious. Oh, we also see Orion in prison, and like because he broke that vow, that star vow to Darcy, he has like terrible luck now. And so Darcy has to go to Darkmoor Penitentiary and like break the star vow between them because he has this like task that he needs to do that Gabriel said. And so she breaks the vow so that he can finally have good luck. And then Gabriel gives him these instructions based on like his visions that he's had, and leads him to this person who tells him that like where the Imperial Star might be or something like that, where they need to find the Imperial Star. Yeah, he gets like a note from his father and like this journal that has clues to finding the Imperial Star, which is something that they need in order to like overthrow Lionel. And then Orion is now out of prison because Lionel wants him closer because he knows that he can find the Imperial Star, and Lionel wants the Imperial Star. So he's being held in like this like summer house or this beach house or whatever, so that he can look for the star. Then we get glimpses of Lionel. I think we get his point of view in this one too, which is just gross. But we just see him being like an absolute tyrant and like calling for genocide basically, and just like all his orderist stuff, and like he doesn't let the orders mingle anymore, and it's just like all this gross stuff. And so you just know that he's like a freaking tyrant. Then the crew finally saves Dory. They like trap her somehow, and Max uses his powers to like influence emotion to help her work through her trauma, which is quite extensive because obviously she's been tortured and she's been conditioned to have these certain thoughts. And so Max is like helping her work through that, but it's also draining him because he's then like feeling all those emotions from her. And it's just so freaking sad to see all that and like to watch Tori deal with her PTSD. Then Darius takes her to the mortal realm because the mortal realm, like the barrier, helps kind of dull the guardian bond. So Tori doesn't like yearn for Lionel anymore because she like misses him and stuff. It's still gross. Even though she knows she's supposed to hate him now, it's still gross. Then, of course, throughout this whole book, Seth is like trying to make Orion jealous and like make it seem like Seth and Darcy have become a thing now since he's left. Like, oh, she needed someone, so she came to me, and like trying to make him jealous to help them get back together because Orion doesn't want to be with her anymore because he doesn't want to ruin her reputation and ruin her stake on the, like her claim to the throne. A lot of stuff happens in this one, dang. So Lionel dark coerces Catalina into having sex with somebody because he's been doing that forever. And once Orion finds out about that, he and Tori help save her. They like free her from the dark coercion. They kill the guy that, or like, you know, knock the guy out that was trying to like sleep with her and rape her. And they take Catalina away now. They make it look like she was killed, and they take her away and send her with Geraldine's father, and they become a thing. Darcy and Orion then go to find the Imperial Star. I think it's in like a cemetery or a tomb or something like that. I can't really remember. But they go through this thing, and Orion's like base instincts take over, and he's like a vampire, like extreme, and wants to kill her, and he like somehow overcomes that to stopping like killing her. And then he finds out about the guild. He's the master of the guild, the new master of the guild, which is like tasked to protect the Vega princesses basically. And he finds out this whole time that his dad was the master of the guild, and it's like this huge thing, and so he's like in charge of protecting them now. And he's finally starting to see like they actually need these girls on the throne. Like they want them. They're actually good. Then we have the scene with Darius's wedding to Mildred, which has been like impending doom this whole time. And he is forced to marry Mildred, and we find out that it was Gabriel the whole time with an illusion, and he saves Darius and is like, you need to come with me right now or everyone we know is gonna die. And Darius is like, oh my god, okay. So they go to this like cavern where Darius can speak to the stars, and Gabriel's like, I have no idea what's gonna go on in there, I can't see it, but you need to go in there, it's the only way that we can save them. And Darius goes in there, makes the deal with the stars that he will die in 1 year, and it is the only way that he can save Tori and Darcy, otherwise that they will die. And he's like, I cannot live knowing that Tori will die. So he's like, I accept, you know. They also make every bond that he has like broken. So the guardian bond between him and Orion is now broken. The star-crossed thing is now broken. So he and Tori can finally be together, but he only has a year with her. And there's this giant battle, right? As this is going on, as he's like going to make this deal with them, there's this huge battle going on where Lance and Darcy are like trying to fight for their lives, and the heirs and the rebels come to save them, and there's this whole battle going down. And Tori finally gets free of that guardian bond between her and Lionel, and so she can attack him now. And the whole like rebellion has to retreat because there's like the shadows are like too hard to fight against, and so they like kind of go into hiding at the end of this. I also forgot the tattoos. Darius and Tori get tattoos in this where it says like there is only him or there is only her, and they have like their sign constellations. That part is just so freaking sweet. But yeah, at the end there, Tori is getting tortured, and like Lionel like burns off that tattoo and stuff. It's all, he's such an asshole. And then Darcy gets cursed, like shadow cursed by Lavinia, the shadow princess. And then Orion finally kills Clara because she's like, there's no coming back for me. I've been trapped here. I just want to move on. And so he kills her, and then Lavinia like forms her own body, like takes her body out of Clara's because she's been possessed by the shadow princess and is now like her own creepy thing. So that's how that one ends. And then finally we have book 7, Heartless Sky. So I will say before I even talk about this one, this was my least favorite book in the series. I gave it 4 stars. Maybe it's more like a 3.5 now after sitting with it. I don't know. I'll have to decide on a reread. I'm going to stick with 4 stars. I did still like it, but there was just so many issues that I had with this one, and it just became like so tedious and exhausting at some points that I'm just like, I'm ready. I'm ready for the happy ending. So we start off knowing that the whole crew is in hiding with this rebellion. They have this like secret place that they're at where they're trying to like get their plan in order. And Tori and Darius can finally be together because their star-crossed bond has been taken away. So they're finally going to be together, and Darius is like keeping this secret that he is going to die in a year, and he's trying to like finally like spend that year being with Tori, and then also finding a way to take out his father before he goes. Orion is still power shamed in this one because of the whole thing with like a teacher sleeping with a student, and like nobody in the rebellion wants to acknowledge him at all. And Darcy's like, no, you need to acknowledge him. Like, I actually love him. This was all just like a fake thing that he said so that he could save me. And everyone else was like, no, dude, he's power shamed. It ain't happening. Then there's also some like brutal murders happening during like in the rebellion. Like their people are just like getting brutally murdered, and we don't know why, except immediately when that happened, I was like, that's Darcy. That's the shadow curse. And the whole time they're like, I think I burned through the shadow curse with my phoenix flames. And it's like, I don't think that's how it works, hon. I don't think that's how it works. And so like immediately when that happened, I was like, that's Darcy. Like, that's not even a surprise. It wasn't even a twist for me to find that out in the end. It was Darcy. Okay, then I don't know exactly what part it is, but where Tori and Darcy go like train with this like Queen Alara or whatever her name is, Alaria, I don't remember. Avalon, Queen Avalon. But that whole thing was like kind of weird for me because they go for like the time skips in this are so like intense compared to the other books. Like the first book takes place in like 2 weeks. Like that whole stack there, books 1 through 6 is, or I guess books 1 through 5 or 5.5 are like their first year at the academy. And then this book is like a whole year. Like they spend months and months and months, like months and months and months with this queen training, and we barely get to see that at all. Like, I don't know, that part just like bothered me a little bit that we didn't get to really see them training with this queen, and it was just like so rushed in my opinion. Like, what was the point of that? Couldn't they have been meeting with this queen the whole time, and then you could spread it out a little bit more? Then I could believe that the girls like got trained, but just to be like, yeah, they were with this queen for a couple months, and now look, here it is, like 4 months later, here we are, super badass. And it's like, all right. Seth and Caleb also have their steamy moment in this one, and it gets kind of ruined because there's like a little bit of a miscommunication happening between the two of them. Oh, Darcy and Orion's like divine moment happens, and again, what happens when something good happens? It gets ruined. That's right. Say it with me now. It gets ruined. So they have their divine moment, they find out they're mates, and literally immediately, they get arrested by the FIB. And it's like, I don't know if it was supposed to be like a funny thing that they were doing or like a cute romantic thing that they have this divine moment and then all they want to do is like have sex, and they're getting arrested and they're like, they don't even care. They're handcuffed and like trying to have sex with each other. And it's like, why did that have to happen that way? Like, why did their divine moment have to be ruined like that? But Francesca ends up helping them escape, and then Orion's power shaming stops because they're like, oh, the stars chose him to be with the princess, and that's why they were together, and blah, blah, blah. So now he's not power shamed anymore. And then Tori and Darius, when they're like saying I love you, Darius says, there is only you, Roxy. I said, finding her evergreen eyes and holding them. The stars can have it all, everything else of me but you. There is only you too, Darius, she replied. Oh, they're so cute. I love them so much. I just want them to have a happy ending. Which, of course, like, they finally get to be together in this book. And then she doesn't realize it, but they have to go to, you know, for months at a time, and she doesn't realize that she only has like numbered days with him. And then I think they agree to get married. Yeah, they get married in this. And then the big final battle happens. Catalina and Hamish decide to just kill themselves because why not? Darcy gets taken over by her shadow curse. It's like exposed at that point that like she was the one behind all of the murders, and it's like, yeah, saw that coming from 200 miles away, honestly. Like not even a mile away, like 200 miles away. It was so not well hidden at all. It was so obvious. And then, of course, she's forced to, like, attack her own people. And Orion then makes this deal with Lavinia, saying that he's going to, like, be her willing slave, basically, for, I don't know, 3 months or something. 3 cycles of the moon, whatever she says. And I'm sure he's just going to be absolutely tortured in unthinkable ways because of this. Because I know one of the prophecies was that, like, the hunter will pay the price. And so he's going to pay the price. And then Darius dies. He gets killed. What the? He is like sees Lionel and he shows him the wedding band or whatever and says like, I married her, and when I return to her with your head hanging from my fist, I'll bow to her too. And his dad is like, no you won't. No son of mine will ever bow to a fucking Vega. And then he kills him. And his last thoughts are of Tori. Breaks my heart, my love, my queen. And that was the way I wanted to leave this life, because when it came down to it, I knew that she was it for me. The only thing I'd ever truly needed, and for the briefest span of time, she had belonged to me. And that was enough. There is only her. And then he dies. And then Tori finds him. This last chapter. Oh my God. Where she's like begging the stars, please not him. And then they don't do anything, obviously. And she says, this isn't our fate. I growled against his lips. And then she like unleashes her wrath on the stars. Blood dripped between my fingers, his, mine, ours. There was magic in that. Ancient magic, which I could feel thrumming through the air all around me, and the power built inside me unlike anything I'd ever felt before, as I leaned into it. This wasn't my elements, or my phoenix, or any kind of magic I knew. It was raw, savage, the essence of all we were and all we'd ever be. I looked up at the heartless sky, with a curse on my lips, and slit the blade deeper into my flesh, knowing that it would scar and welcome the pain as I dropped the weapon and held my fist up to the stars for them to see the mixture of my mate's blood and my own running down my arm. I will tear the heavens apart for this, I snarled, flicking my free hand and using my air and water magic to send the droplets of our blood flying up to the sky for them to feast on. I will shred your world to pieces and rip your hold on destiny from your fucking fists with blood and fire and vengeance for this, I screamed at them, power whipping all around me and making my hair billow in the force of it all as more and more blood raced up towards the heavens. On my life, I curse you. On his life, I curse you. For our fate, I'll end you. And then it says, a shockwave of red and blue fire exploded from me as I screamed my grief to the stars, and the shrieks of the nymphs arose and answered to me as they died beneath the full force of my power. The blast tore from me like a supernova, leaving nothing but death and ash in its wake, and I arched my spine up as it spilled through me and into the world, carrying an endless echo of my pain with it to touch every corner of this star-cursed earth and make sure that everyone residing on it felt it too. And then it ends with giving her this, like, prophecy riddle, basically. I'm so mad that Darius is killed, like... I'm just so mad about it. I just want them to have a happy ending. And, like, at this point, it's just exhausting. Like, we've been through so much with them. I've had my heart broken over and over and over and over again. And it's just, like, unrelenting. Like, there's just nothing to hold on to anymore. It's just unrelentingly sad. So, yeah, I'm just, like, exhausted at this point. So that's why this was my least favorite, because I'm just like, really? 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 I am really excited for the 8th book. I swear to God, if they don't have a happy ending, I will burn this entire series in my backyard. I said what I said. So, those are all of my spoilery thoughts on the Zodiac Academy series. If it's been a long video, like, that's a lot of books to talk about, spoilery. Hopefully this is like helpful maybe before the 8th one comes out, if you need like a little recap of the books that's quick, you know, rather than rereading all of them. I'll probably watch this and like get a recap on everything that happened, so that I'm like prepared. But yeah, I am really excited for the 8th book. It comes out in December. I'm definitely going to be picking it up the day that it comes out. And hopefully you enjoyed this spoilery discussion. I know it was a really long video, but thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, let's leave the Gemini emoji down below, right? The Gemini sign emoji, those little purple ones, you know, for the twins. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end, I appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. It really helps out my channel, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.